in this budget, no money for universal pharmacare. They're going to go and consult once again. They promise Canadians the sky. They sound so nice. They say it with smiles, sunny ways, and all of that. They say that they're different from the Conservatives. Let me just say this, Mr. Speaker, Liberal Tories, same old story.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est un grand honneur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member statement, Mr. Speaker, and it's often a reflection on how much can change in 2 weeks. I booked this member's statement with the sole purpose of saying to all my friends in this place that I've now been happily married for a whole week. And thank you. And they said it wouldn't last. My husband and I, he's here, are hoping all of you can come to a small party this evening. All the details are in your inbox. But I also wanted to say that this week brought great sadness. I lost a dear friend. His name, Josh Underhay, you've seen in the news. You know that he was a candidate in Prince Edward Island for the Green Party and that he and his son Oliver drowned on Good Friday. It's hard sometimes to hold in your heart more happiness than you've known, at the same time grieving. But it is possible for us in this place to be more like Prince Edward Islanders, to gather together, to celebrate love and grief, and to be more civil with one another as we go into this election. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to remember nearly 1 year ago on April 23rd all those who were affected by the Toronto van attack, a deliberate and cowardly act that claimed 10 lives and injured 16 others. The first victim identified was Anne-Marie D'Amico, a resident from my riding of Davenport. She was described by her brother as a fighting spirit, someone who would go the extra mile showing she cared. She always did things that had enormous impact because she did everything with her whole heart. Inspired by her character and in remembrance of her spirit, the D'Amico family has started the Anne-Marie D'Amico Foundation with the goal to promote positive change to help end violence against women. This year's donations will support the North York Women's Shelter in building a new state-of-the-art shelter and community hub, which will house up to 40 women and children impacted by violence. 1 year on, we as Canadians must continue to stand together against violent acts like these and always keep those like Anne-Marie D'Amico who have been impacted in our hearts. We will remember. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, it's my absolute honour to rise in this House today to congratulate the Lacombe Generals on their recent Allen Cup victory. This is the 4th time in the team's 20-year history that they have won the national title. The Generals have advanced to the finals in 6 other years, certainly a dynasty team if there ever was one. What made this win extra special, Mr. Speaker, is that it took place on home ice and featured for the first time ever an all-Alberta final, as the Innisfail Eagles also advanced to the final game in their first Allen Cup appearance in the team's 71-year history. The two teams played before a sold-out crowd and did not disappoint. The final score was 5-2, and the Lacombe Generals emerged victorious. It was truly a story that wrote itself, and I could not be more proud to represent such a fine organization and such great and skilled players. Thank you to the 2019 Viking Project's Allen Cup organizers, sponsors, volunteers, and all of the hockey fans who made this event one for the ages. Go, Generals, go!
The honourable member for Cumberland-Colchester.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obesity is a disease that affects millions of Canadians, and sadly, it's getting worse in Canada. Obesity is a condition with a number of contributing factors, many of which are not under the control of the individual. Combating obesity has become a health priority of our government, as we have seen through the introduction of Canada's new and revised food guide, plus front-of-package labeling and advertising restrictions. As chair of the Health Committee, I was glad the committee could play a part in ensuring that Canada's new food guide reflects healthy eating habits for all. And this evening, from 5 to 7 in Wellington Building, room 330, we will be hosting a reception by Obesity Canada to help parliamentarians and their staff understand obesity. Members of Obesity Canada's senior staff will be in attendance, and I invite everyone in this House to attend. That's 330 Wellington at 5 p.m. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
I I rise today to invite Canadians to participate in the Cancer Society's Daffodil campaign. This campaign matters, I think today, as I think every day of my sister Kathleen. Wherever there was the loudest table or the greatest laughter, there was Kathleen. Wherever there was a shout out for one more song and one more story, there was my sis. Even as a little girl, she blew through our lives like a defiant summer storm. She suffered grievously from cancer. It wasn't bloody fair, but it never is. I've never seen anyone more tougher and resolute in the face of death. Doc Holliday had nothing on my sis. Kathleen taught me that what we have is the time we have, and that our only wealth is the investment we make in the ones that love us and that can love us back. She fought like hell to carve out a space where pain and sadness had no domain. So to all the families dealing with cancer, to all the researchers and hospital workers who work every day, we wear the daffodil to support them. Cancer can be beaten. I love you, sis.
The honourable member for Oakville North Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A few years ago, I met a spunky young lady named Avery Castor at a Terry Fox fundraiser at Sammy's Famous Chip Wagon in Oakville, where she was picking up her favorite chicken fingers. Avery was returning for her treatment for brain cancer at McMaster Children's Hospital. Sadly, the cancer she had courageously lived with since she was 8 years old took her young life on April 3rd at the age of 14. Avery's favorite Toronto Raptor and mine, Pascal Siakam, wore kicks in her favorite color sporting her name after she had passed. I'm sure she's cheering on her team from above as they compete in the playoffs. Avery was a warrior queen whose life was cut short by the #1 disease killer of children in Canada. Avery advocated for more money for childhood cancer. We must do more for kids like Avery to give them their best shot at life.
Honourable member for Brantford Brant.
16 years ago, 4 moms who wanted more for their developmentally disabled adult children established Crossing All Bridges Learning Centre in Brantford. From humble beginnings to serving over 70 individuals and their families, Crossing All Bridges provides lifelong education, meaning, and social connection. A social enterprise, Shredding Barriers, was started 3 years ago, providing employment to over 16 participants and empowering them with skills to move into the mainstream workforce. Tears of joy flowed when they received their first paychecks. Having operated out of rented facilities, Crossing All Bridges has embarked on a campaign to have a home of their own. There is a wish list and a wait list, and the new premises will serve to help them grow and achieve their goals. Thank you to the founding moms for their vision. Nancy Soberis, Debbie Brown, Nancy Gowling, and Carol Kane.
Honourable member for Charlottetown.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to mark the tragic passing of Josh Underhay and his 6-year-old son Oliver on Good Friday in a canoeing accident. Josh had an enthusiastic, almost effervescent personality. Il a représenté l'île de Prince-Édouard.
He represented Prince Edward Island a few years ago at a teachers' forum on Canadian parliamentary democracy. He was passionate and extremely curious about everything. He invited me to speak to his class, his French immersion class, and it was easy to see how contagious his energy was. He spoke several languages and was an extraordinary trumpetist.
On the Hillsborough Bridge and was conspicuously present when it was announced just a few days later. In his final days, Josh campaigned as a candidate in the PEI election for the only reason one should, to make his community better. Josh and Oliver have left a gaping hole in the hearts of so many, and our hearts go out to Kerry Shea and young Lyndon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Brossard-Saint-Lambert.
The honourable member for Brossard-Saint-Lambert
is celebrating 70 years today since it was given a renewed purpose in 1949. The Commonwealth is a free association of sovereign states who have maintained ties of friendship and practical cooperation, and who acknowledge Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II at its symbolic head. We can all unite in celebrating this milestone, an occasion to recognize the aspirational and inspirational objectives of this family of nations. I firmly believe in this organization's raison d'etre, namely to promote democracy, human rights, international peace and security, as well as the rule of law and good governance. Among many other accomplishments, the Commonwealth made history with its decisive action to end white minority rule in South Africa. It provides useful tools for effective democracy, such as election observations and peace-building initiatives. The 70th anniversary will be celebrated across the continents for the next year through conferences, literature, ceremonies, or other events. Once again, happy anniversary to the Commonwealth of Nations.
The member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, this government's China policy has been a train wreck. Liberals wanted a warm relationship at all costs, championing free trade with communist China and even agreeing to negotiate an extradition treaty. Concession and capitulation did not bring about some imagined golden age. It simply led China's leaders to see the Prime Minister as weak and to continue to push the envelope. The liberal policy of concession and capitulation brought about the canola crisis currently facing farmers in my community and beyond. Farmers understand that weak leadership on the world stage costs all of us. They want strong conservative leadership once again. We are calling on the government to actually appoint an ambassador, replacing Liberal Minister John McCallum, who resigned in disgrace. The government must support our farmers by increasing the cap and interest-free period of the Federal Advance Payment Program and by launching a complaint against China's actions at the WTO. Canadians know that our canola is world-class, but China's basic dictatorship will continue to take liberties with our vital industries until we restore Canadian leadership on the world stage.
The Honourable Member.
Jewish nation that will stand tall. Terrorism will not take us down. These were the defiant words of Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein this weekend after a gunman with an assault rifle opened fire at his synagogue, after he saw his friend Lori Kay lying dead on the floor, after he saw 8-year-old Noya Dayan carried away bleeding, after he himself had been shot and wounded, and yes, 6 months after 11 other Jews had been killed in another shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh. Mr. Speaker, before these murders, attacks on Jews at prayer did not happen in North America. Now, with neo-Nazis marching in Charlottesville, chanting "Jews will not replace us," an anti-Semitic cartoon being run in the New York Times, and B'nai B'rith reporting over 2,000 anti-Semitic incidents in Canada in 2018, we need a national action plan on anti-Semitism, and we need it now.
Honourable Member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Mr. Speaker, people of faith go to their churches, temples, synagogues, mosques, and gurdwaras to seek peace and to connect with their faith. Far too often, these places of sanctuary are shuttered because of hatred and violence. We saw it this weekend at Congregation Shabbat in California and last month at Mosque in New Zealand. On Easter Sunday in Sri Lanka, terrorists bombed St. Sebastian and St. Anthony's Catholic Church in Colombo and Zion Church in Batticaloa. These worshippers were celebrating Easter Mass on one of the holiest days in the Christian calendar. We condemn these acts of hate unconditionally, mourn the loss of lives, and pray for all those who are affected. We're living in a world where hate is used to divide neighbors and pit one community over another. We must speak up against hatred and divisions and work towards building societies free of racism and discrimination. Because ultimately, Mr. Speaker, an attack on one faith is an attack on all faiths.
Honourable Member for Calgary Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, what do Islanders and Albertans have most in common? Provinces named after royals, naming our kids after today's royals, and of course defeating provincial allies of the Liberal Prime Minister at the ballot box. In Alberta, after a long winter of discontent, voters came out in record numbers rejecting the NDP politics of fear and division. On April 16th, Albertans put an end to one half of the NDP and federal Liberal carbon tax alliance, and we're looking forward to Albertans joining the carbon tax fight. In PEI, Islanders opted for Dennis King and the PC party to serve in only the second minority since Confederation, while banishing the three-term provincial Liberals to a distant third. Congratulations to incoming Premier Jason Kenney and his United Conservative team. Congratulations to incoming Premier Dennis King and to his PC team. It's a Tory blue morning again in Canada. October can't come soon enough that Canadians can ensure it's one and done for this carbon tax-loving Prime Minister.
L'honorable député de Thérèse de Blainville.
The honourable member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, this week we have been raising awareness and encouraging people to take action in Quebec. In December 2018, there were 551 people who received transplants, and this is the week of transplant and organ donation awareness raising. In the last budget, we put over $30 million over 5 years to look into tissue and organ donation and to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of organ donation in Canada. I think it's by speaking about it, promoting it, and making people aware of it that we will save more lives. Have you signed your consent card? I have.
Mr. Speaker, many of us take it for granted that when we leave for work in the morning, we'll come home safe at the end of the day. Yesterday's Day of Mourning is a reminder that too many of us do not. When we commemorated the day in Winnipeg, we heard Cindy Skanderberg tell the story of her son, Michael. In 1999, Michael was a young man learning the electrical trade who was killed when his company, who should have ensured his safety and supervision, sent him off alone to work live on 347-volt lighting. Cindy's honored her son's memory by fighting for changes that make safety in the workplace a priority and hold delinquent employers to account. Better government and workplace policies make a difference. The political advocacy and bargaining work of the labor movement over many decades has been an important part of making work more safe and ensuring more people get home at the end of the day. As we prepare to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 1919 Winnipeg General Strike, and as many governments across Canada continue to challenge the collective bargaining rights of Canadians, the Day of Mourning is an important reminder of the need to defend those rights.
Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Once again, the world has witnessed horrific attacks against Christians because of their faith. On Easter Sunday, Islamic extremists bombed churches and hotels, targeting the Christian community in Sri Lanka, brutally murdering more than 250 people and injuring hundreds more. Christians are the most persecuted religious group in the world. They're targeted by Islamic extremists in countries like Pakistan, Iran, and Nigeria, and by communist regimes in China and North Korea. Here in the West, we see a subtle persecution. For example, if you are a Christian in the West and you believe in creation or the teachings of the Bible, be prepared to be mocked and ridiculed by many, including some of your own political leaders. And if you have social beliefs based on your Christian convictions, you might be denied government funding. This is shameful, and as uncomfortable as it might make some, it must be called out. It's time we stand up for all religious freedoms. We must lead by example and reject all violence and persecution of people because of their faith and beliefs.
The
Honourable Member for Gatineau. Mr. Speaker, Quebec, Ontario, and New Brunswick are currently facing major floods. Our communities have been sorely tried. The Government of Canada is following the situation very closely and working with our partners in the provincial and municipal governments. And we're especially grateful for the support of the Canadian Armed Forces in Gatineau. I was touched by the resilience and solidarity of the people of Gatineau. Coming days will present new challenges, but I want to underscore the hard work of municipal employees, elected representatives, and many volunteers. In 3 years, Gatineau has had 2 major floods and a tornado, which result from climate change. We want to help those affected by the floods. We will not abandon them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the Sri Lanka Easter bombings. I now invite honourable members to rise. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Various regions in Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick are dealing with severe flooding. We are all very concerned for the lives, families, and businesses that are being impacted by the high water. I know we're all grateful to the thousands of volunteers, first responders, and the Canadian Armed Forces who are working around the clock trying to keep people and their property safe. Can the government provide this House with an update on the current situation and inform us as to what immediate actions are being taken to assist those who are affected by the current flooding? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are standing shoulder to shoulder in combating dangerous and damaging floods this spring across 4 provinces. The provinces have, of course, the frontline jurisdiction for emergency response, but when they need help, they make a specific request to the Government of Canada, and we have responded quickly and positively in every case. I've spoken with Minister Eckhart in New Brunswick, Minister Guilbeault in Quebec, and Minister Jones in Ontario. Our collaboration in response has been seamless. All governments and thousands of volunteers will continue to work together to help to support one another, because that's what Canadians do.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for that answer. Mr. Speaker, the canola crisis with China has been ongoing for over a month now, and it's been devastating for Canadian producers. But our Prime Minister has been so embroiled in his SNC-Lavalin scandal that he hasn't offered any solutions. Sadly, he doesn't even appear to know the difference between China and Japan. He's been more consumed with saving his own political skin rather than addressing the real issues that Canadians are facing. What will the Prime Minister do for canola farmers who are facing this immediate and this growing crisis?
Mr. Speaker, we are standing shoulder to shoulder with our canola farmers from the very beginning, and we stand with them and their families. We know we have the best canola in the world. We have a very robust inspection system, and we have ongoing conversation with the Chinese authority to resolve this issue as quickly as we can. We remain committed to set this issue, and we are also looking at the best way to support even more our farmers. We look forward to have more to say soon.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Conservatives have been meeting and consulting with leaders and members of the ag sector, and earlier today, our leader put forward concrete proposals to address the canola crisis. Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, are happy to do the work and offer solutions, while the Prime Minister and the Liberals are clearly asleep at the wheel. Our plan offers real solutions, and it has the support of canola producers. So, will the Prime Minister take the work that we've done and implement these proposals immediately?
Hear, hear. Well, Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, actually, we were working on this issue from the first day, while our Conservatives colleagues were keeping asking questions on other issues. It took them 6 weeks to ask that first question on the canola issue. Our team is working with the industry, with our provincial colleagues, with the businesses involved, with the farmers for more than 2 months now. We are there standing by our farmers and their families since the beginning.
Order. It's difficult to hear the answer when the honourable member for Prince Albert is yelling out throughout the answer. I'd ask him to restrain himself and show respect for this House. Order. 7 weeks ahead. I know we can manage to contain ourselves. I'm happy to do that.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable.
9th time to have an emergency debate on the canola thing, Mr. Speaker. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the government's inaction on canola is costing the economy dearly. It's been almost 2 months that Richardson's permit was cancelled, and what's the government done? Absolutely nothing. It's just waiting for the crisis to resolve itself. Will the Prime Minister listen to the Leader of the Opposition and, one, appoint an ambassador, provide emergency funding to farmers, and to lodge an official trade complaint against the Chinese government? The Honourable Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, we have been working on this file since the very beginning. It took 7 weeks before the member for Mégantic-L'Érable to put his first question on canola to me. Since the very beginning, I've been working with our producers, farmers, with the industry, with our colleagues in the provinces, with companies that are directly affected. We've put together a working committee. We are looking at all the options, and I will have some good news to announce shortly to further assist our producers.
L'honorable député Mégantic.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The Minister of the Agriculture has refused to talk about the crisis at committee since before Christmas, Mr. Speaker. They don't want to talk about it there. For a month, we've talked about a technical delegation. China has been completely ignoring the Liberal government. Today, we've learned that the crisis will extend to additional commodities. Maybe the minister has time to wait, but our producers don't. They don't have time to wait, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister listen to the Leader of the Opposition, appoint an ambassador, increase assistance to producers, and lodge an official trade complaint against China? The Honourable Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, since I was appointed to my new position, since March 1st, I have worked hard on this file as a team with my colleague, the Minister for Trade Diversification, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, others, our counterparts in the provinces. We have worked together tirelessly to continue the technical conversations with the inspection agency and with Chinese authorities. We are supporting our producers.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the scandal around the Prime Minister's role in political interference has shown Canadians Liberals have one set of rules for their powerful friends and another for everyone else. It's not just shielding a giant corporation from criminal prosecution. KPMG was let off the hook for tax avoidance. Sears financiers were protected, but workers were not. And pharmaceutical companies were put ahead of Canadians unable to afford the medication. Will Liberals now change their course and help people by implementing our plan for pharmacare for all?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of International Trade Diversification.
Mr. Speaker, while Canadians are proud of their healthcare system, we believe that no one should have to choose between paying for prescriptions and putting food on the table.
Yes.
That's why we're laying the foundation for national pharmacare with several bold, concrete steps in Budget 2019 that could lower drug costs by up to $3 billion a year. We look forward to continuing this progress when we receive the Pharmacare Council's final report in the coming months.
Honourable member for Burnaby South.
Mr. Speaker, that answer was an embarrassment.
Yes.
Liberals are also missing an opportunity for Canada to become a leader in the green economy, and instead continue to pile billions on billions in corporate welfare to highly profitable companies. Investing in a green economy can create thousands of jobs while fighting climate change. Let's start by helping Canadians reduce their carbon footprint and their monthly bills. Will Liberals stop subsidizing old companies, stop giving millions to Loblaws, and instead agree to our plan to retrofit all homes by 2050?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Speaker, we have developed a comprehensive plan to address carbon emissions across this country that focuses not only on reducing emissions and adapting to some of the changes that we're already seeing in climate change, but focusing very much on generating the new economy. As somebody who actually spent 20 years as a CEO in the green tech industry, I understand this area very well. This government has a comprehensive plan to ensure that we are addressing this on a go-forward basis in a responsible and thoughtful way.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Mr. Speaker, rich corporations have long had someone on their side, and people are paying the price. People deserve a government that's on their side, but the Liberal government has maintained the Conservative billion-dollar subsidies to oil and gas companies. That's unacceptable. To protect our environment and help people, when will the Liberals put an end to these subsidies? The Honourable Minister of Fisheries. Mr. Speaker, we have taken a great deal of action to fight climate change. We have taken steps to address greenhouse gas emissions. We are focusing on the economy, and we have a plan to deal with climate change. We are showing leadership, and we will continue to do so in the future. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Mr. Speaker, that answer is unacceptable. It's high time for the government to work for the people and not for the richest people. It's not by giving millions of dollars to the richest, in fact, corporations, that we'll be able to fight climate change. Our families and workers need help. When will the Liberal government acknowledge its mistake and reinvest the $12 million to help workers and their families? The Honourable Minister. Our plan was developed in conjunction with the Canadians. It's a serious and affordable plan that will ensure results. We have a plan to fight climate change and to make the economy clean for all. We have put in place over 50 measures. Canadians want real action and not the Conservative action or the words of the NDP. The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is making our diplomatic relationships with China worse. We've got the canola crisis, the wrongful detention of 2 Canadians following the Huawei affair on the weekend during a meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister. Imagine the Prime Minister achieved the impossible. He mixed up Japan and China in the same sentence. Not once, twice. What will the Prime Minister do to restore our diplomatic relations with China? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, our priority and my personal priority is the well-being and safety of Canadians detained in China. We have brought together an unprecedented number of partners throughout the world to support Canada's position. The European Union France, Australia, Great Britain, Holland. And I'll continue with the second question. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthur-Baske. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that the Prime Minister and government haven't offered any support to Canadian canola producers. The Prime Minister and his government haven't supported the 2 Canadians detained in China. The Prime Minister must immediately appoint an ambassador to China who can defend our nationals who are unfairly detained and restore stable trade and diplomatic relations. When will the Prime Minister show at least some leadership and responsibility? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'll continue with the list of the countries that have publicly supported Canada on this file. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Spain, Denmark, the United States, and 140 international academics and diplomats. The Secretary General at NATO directly and publicly called upon China to address our concerns and to take them seriously.
Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is in the midst of the deepest diplomatic crisis we've ever experienced with China, and we have no ambassador on the ground. Ever since the Prime Minister's hand-picked Liberal insider had to resign 3 months ago due to his own incompetence. The crisis gets worse each week, Mr. Speaker. Canadian citizens are in prison and are being mistreated. Exporters, including canola producers, are suffering. When will the Prime Minister step up and nominate a new ambassador to start turning this crisis around?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to assure every member of this House, and above all, the detained Canadians, that their well-being is our government's paramount priority and my paramount concern. We have rallied an unprecedented number of countries around the world to publicly speak out about these detained Canadians and to call for their release. And I'll give you the full list, Mr. Speaker, when I answer the next question.
Honourable Member for Durham.
It's reassuring she's already what her answer will be to my question, Mr. Speaker. I'll remind her the Prime Minister famously said that Canada is back. I'm sure that hollow Liberal slogan is warm comfort to our 2 prisoners in China who have the lights on 24/7, Mr. Speaker. I'm not concerned about the other countries the minister is calling. I'd like her to speak to her Prime Minister. Will she answer this simple question? Will she appoint a new ambassador for China to stop or turn around this dispute by the end of the month, yes or no?
Yeah. Order. The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Sure, I am able to predict my answers because the questions are so easily predictable and repetitive. And Mr. Speaker, Canada absolutely is back, which is why we have rallied an unprecedented...
Order. 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 Members may not like questions or the answers, but we still have to hear them. Order. Order. The member for Carleton.
The Prime Minister shattered his promise that the budget would balance itself this year. Remember that? He's added 3 times as much debt as he said he would. The cost of government was up 25% in just over 3 years. Among the wasteful spending is the $250 million for the Asian Infrastructure Bank to build pipelines and roads in China. Will the Prime Minister show even a modicum of respect for Canadian taxpayers and cancel that $250 million waste of money?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
we're pleased to make an investment into the Asian Infrastructure Bank, we know that that makes an important difference. There is, in fact, one project that bank has taken on in China. It's a project to reduce the use of coal so that we can reduce pollution. The other projects, of course, are in less developed countries. And we think it's important to fund infrastructure around the world, which helps Canadian companies and helps our world be a more prosperous place.
You're here.
There's far too much noise. This must not continue. There will be fewer questions. The honourable member for Carleton.
The Prime Minister famously said that his favorite model of government was the basic Chinese dictatorship. In response, the Foreign Minister tells us the Chinese government gave him a nickname, Little Potato. And to thank them for that, he gave $250 million tax dollars to the Asian Infrastructure Bank to build pipelines and roads in that country that we can't even build in our own. Will the Prime Minister finally show some respect for Canadian tax dollars and cancel this $250 million handout to the Chinese government?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I continue to live in a world where facts matter. Again, there has been one investment by the Asian Infrastructure Bank in China to help them to get off coal to reduce pollution. Now, we know this is important. We also know that the other investments that bank is making around the less developed countries in Asia so they can actually improve their situation are critically important for our world. They're helpful for Canadian companies who are making those investments as well. We continue to support this infrastructure bank, and we'll continue to work with those countries to improve their situation.
Member for Timmins, James Bay.
So I was back home talking with people about job and pension insecurity, talking with Kashechewan evacuees facing another year devastating floods and broken promises, and everyone said to me, explain, why did this Prime Minister give $12 million to Galen Weston to fix his fridges? This is a guy who lives in a gated community in Florida and fought against a living wage for his employees. It's the disconnect of this government that offends people. Why is this Prime Minister preferring to act like a head butler for the uber-rich and the lobbyists rather than stand up for the interests of working-class Canadians?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Speaker, the honourable member has misconstrued our government's agenda, which is squarely to ensure that we create an economy that works for everyone. I have sat on panels with members of the NDP who said that they support investments in energy efficiency. Now that we're actually doing it, they seem to oppose it. The fact is, the Low Carbon Economy Fund had officials from Environment and Climate Change Canada nominate 54 projects for funding through this fund based on what would achieve the greatest amount of emissions reductions at the lowest cost to Canadians. This investment is going to help reduce emissions, create jobs in places like Mississauga and 370 communities across our entire country.
The honourable member. The honourable member for Elmwood Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The problem is that this announcement had all the hallmarks of a government that was shopping around to participate in an announcement that was happening anyway, because Loblaws was moving ahead to renovate their fridges anyway, and they wanted to be at the podium. That's the issue, Mr. Speaker. And the question, and the problem is, it's part of a theme of this government caving to corporate interests, as they did when they passed special legislation for SNC-Lavalin, while at the same time they were saying they needed a long, drawn-out consultation to see if it was worthwhile protecting the pensions of Sears workers and Stelco workers. So why isn't Canadian workers can't get the same protection for their pensions that SNC-Lavalin gets from criminal charges?
The Honourable Minister of Seniors.
Workplace pension security is a decades-old problem, and it's our government that committed the resources, the time, and the energy to get this right. We are taking an evidence-based approach. We had consultations, and as a result of those consultations in Budget 2019, have introduced measures that are going to help our pensioners. We have created a process that's more fair, open, and transparent. Executive bonuses, we heard a great deal about that. We've given the courts the power to set aside those executive bonuses when pensioners are compromised. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important file. We're going to continue to work hard to protect our pensioners.
The Honourable member for Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock.
Mr. Speaker, 3 years of Liberal fumbles, failures, and delays on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion have cost Canadians jobs and prosperity as investment flees the country. The Prime Minister moves heaven and earth to help his billionaire friends, but for struggling middle-class families dependent on the energy sector, well, they can just wait and wait. Speaker, on what day will construction begin on the Trans Mountain Pipeline?
The Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, through you, let me take this opportunity to remind Canadians that it was the Conservative opposition members that voted to defund and kill the process that we have put in place for meaningful consultation with Indigenous communities. If they're really serious about expanding our energy sector and getting our resources to global markets, they should have supported that process so we can move forward in consultation with Indigenous peoples to move forward with this project in the right way.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, construction season is upon us, but the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion lays dormant. As of today, there's no shovels in the ground, there's no jobs have been created, no community benefits are flowing.
Shameful.
Gas prices are soaring sky high, and people are hurting. This government spent $4.5 billion to buy a pipeline, and now they can't even guarantee that it will be approved. This is insulting, and the constituents don't like to be played for fools. On what date will construction begin?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
We are following a path that is given to us by the Federal Court of Appeal, which means a process for meaningful consultation with Indigenous communities to get this project right, to listen to their concerns and offer them accommodation on their concerns. It was surprising to see the members of the opposition actually vote in favor of defunding and killing that process that we are following to get this project right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister said they spent $4.5 billion tax dollars to buy the Trans Mountain Pipeline to start building the expansion, quote, immediately. It's now been over 11 months since Liberals told Canadians construction would begin, quote, right away. On what date will construction of the Trans Mountain expansion start?
The Minister of Natural Resources.
It's surprising that the Conservative would like us to follow a failed process that they followed for 10 years, that did not get a single pipeline built to get our resources to non-U.S. markets. 99% of the oil that we sell to the outside world is going to one country, the United States. We need to expand our global market. In order to do that, we need to ensure that we follow the right process to move forward on projects such as Trans Mountain Pipeline Expansion Project.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, under Conservatives, 4 major pipelines were built with more access to new markets. And the reality is the Liberals already killed 2 pipelines. 3 companies that wanted to build pipelines in Canada are gone, and not a single new inch of pipeline is in service right now. They said they spent $4.5 billion tax dollars to build the Trans Mountain expansion immediately. Now all he has to do is answer the questions. When will the Trans Mountain expansion be built?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable member very well knows that one of the projects she's talking about was actually the reversal of the existing pipeline.
That's right.
If that is considered a new pipeline, I'm surprised what the definition of new pipeline is. Right? We are moving forward in the right way on this process to ensure that we are consulting with Indigenous communities in a meaningful way, and we have extended the time over 3 weeks to give them enough time to ensure they are included in this process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, this government has abandoned steel workers once again. After steel safeguards expired last week, the Liberals failed to extend them for 5 crucial Canadian steel products. Now thousands of steel workers are left exposed to even more uncertainty thanks to a government that removed protections and has now allowed foreign dumping to flood our Canadian markets. The European Union has already put in place permanent safeguards. Instead of spending their time protecting the interests of their rich friends, why won't the government get to work and protect the jobs of Canadian steel workers?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I see it as critically important that we do protect steel workers and the steel industry. We have said that we are moving forward with 2 safeguards as recommended by the CITT. We are clearly focused on how we can eliminate these unjust tariffs that have been imposed on us by the United States. And we've said that over the next 30 days we will work intensively with the industry to make sure that we can protect the industry and steel workers so that we can ensure that we have a long-term capacity in this sector.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. There's hardly any time left, Mr. Speaker. Workers in Quebec, like the aluminum workers in my riding of Jonquière, have been living in uncertainty for several months. And now steel workers will be facing the same uncertainty. Late Friday, the Liberals announced they won't permanently maintain safeguards for Canada's steel industry. Thousands of jobs are at stake. The Prime Minister reacts a lot more quickly when it's his billionaire friends who need help. Will the government finally stand up for workers and maintain all safeguards for the steel industry permanently? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, we believe it's very important to protect steel workers. We will continue with our approach of working with the steel industry, and we will continue to consider the ways that we can protect the industry. It's something that's very important for the 23,000 employees, of course, but it's also important for the future of the entire sector. The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds. Mr. Speaker, flooding in 4 provinces have had devastating effects on many communities, including mine. They continue to destroy houses, roads, and communities.
Hits. We see our neighbors stepping up and our first responders working hard to keep us safe. Can the Minister of Public Safety please update the House on how the government is supporting Canadians who are being affected by the flooding?
Honourable Minister.
En tant que gouvernement fédéral.
Our job as the federal government is to respond quickly to every provincial request for help.
Provincial counterparts, and we're working seamlessly together. Since receiving requests from New Brunswick, Ontario, and Quebec, some 2,000 Canadian Armed Forces personnel have been deployed. They've been crucial in assisting with evacuations, sandbagging, and other duties. The Coast Guard, DFO, Indigenous Services, Environment Canada, Natural Resources Canada, Public Safety Canada, Transport Canada, and Revenue Canada, and thousands of volunteers are working their hearts out to keep everyone safe.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, the Ethics Commissioner found the Prime Minister violated the Conflict of Interest Act, accepting an illegal vacation seen as a gift designed to influence the PM. This past week, a federal court ruled the Lobbying Commissioner must also investigate this illegal vacation. Now the Liberals are fighting that order. Mr. Speaker, why is the government spending public money trying to cover up the Prime Minister's illegal holiday?
Honourable Government House Leader.
As I have said on numerous occasions in this House, we support the independence of officers of Parliament. As we all know, the Lobbying Commissioner investigates lobbyists. As the interpretation of the Act continues to be considered by the courts, we will not comment. Mr. Speaker, I can assure all members, as well as all Canadians, that the Prime Minister and his office were not part of the decision to appeal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member. Order. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the investigation into the Prime Minister's illegal vacation will undoubtedly be delayed since the Liberals are appealing the judge's decision. It's clear that the Liberal government only respects our justice system if they can cheat it or profit from it. Mr. Speaker, we should be protecting trust in our justice system, which is so valuable. So why won't the Prime Minister set an example for all Canadians? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we support the independence of officers of Parliament. As we know, the Lobbying Commissioner is investigating. The interpretation of the law continues to be considered by the courts, and therefore we will not be commenting on the decision on this issue. The decision was made independently by the Prime Minister in his office. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, a friend is a friend, but a Liberal friend is special. A Liberal friend gets a contract without going through a call for tenders. The Department of Justice worked to ensure that a lawyer with links to the Liberal Party of Canada got a consulting contract worth $711 per hour. And what a coincidence, the lawyer is a fundraiser for the Liberal Party. Mr. Speaker, what are the Liberals hiding from Canadians here? Is it a new scandal?
Alors.
Order.
C'est souvent difficile après.
The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, I can reassure the Honourable Member, this House, and all Canadians that all of the rules were followed in this case. There are a number of law firms that do business with the Department of Justice. This was a decision that was made internally, and it followed all the rules, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's get this straight. We have a Liberal-connected law firm initially offered a big contract without having to compete with other firms. Wow. The two lead lawyers, both regular contributors to the Liberal Party, one a former chief speechwriter for the Liberals, the other the Liberals' 2015 campaign lawyer. Although other firms were belatedly invited to bid, none did, and the Liberal-connected firm got the big contract. Mr. Speaker, why is it with these Liberals it's always who you know?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
As I said a moment ago in French, I can reassure the Honourable Member, I can reassure this House and all Canadians that this kind of contract, Mr. Speaker, was well within the power of the Deputy Minister and the Department to accord. They did so in a transparent process that followed all rules and regulations, Mr. Speaker. That firm, Mr. Speaker, is one of many firms that does work with our Justice Department.
Order. The Honourable Member Allard.
The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte de Beaupré, l'Île d'Orléans, Charlevoix, should come to order. Yes.
Courtney Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, decades of Liberal and Conservative mismanagement of our fisheries has left Chinook salmon populations in a desperate situation. Instead of acting with urgency, Liberals just keep re-announcing the same funding they promised for restoration, enhancement, and lost habitat protections. But the money's not flowing. The Liberals can find $4.5 billion for their pipeline expansion, but they can't get the money out the door to support local fishers and communities affected by fisheries closures. Will the minister finally commit to immediately rolling out these necessary funds? What are they waiting for, Mr. Speaker?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Mr. Speaker, I was very pleased to stand with Premier John Horgan about a month or so ago to announce the BC Salmon Restoration and Innovation Fund, which is $142 million focused on habitat restoration in British Columbia, the largest investment ever made in habitat restoration. We have expedited the process to ensure that we are taking in applications with respect to that fund, and we will be commencing decisions on those by early June. I think that a 2.5-month period to solicit applications and to make decisions is a pretty darn fast period of time.
Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Well, waiting for that announcement certainly took a lot of time when wild salmon on our coastline are suffering every single day. And we have known this, and we've known this for years. But the Liberals had a consultation process that was shoddy at best. The late announcement left small businesses scrambling. This problem is the result of decades of mismanagement and broken Liberal promises on habitat restoration. Hatcheries along the coast have not seen an increase in funding for over 35 years. So they've got $12 million for Loblaws fridges. Where is the money for the hatcheries? So when will this government take responsibility and stop?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Addressing the decline in Fraser River Chinook is obviously a complicated process. It involves money going into habitat restoration, which we announced with Premier Horgan of British Columbia. It involves the new Fisheries Act, which provides brings back the loss protections that were lost under the previous Conservative government. It focuses on ensuring that appropriate fisheries management is taking place, which was the announcement I made last week. It also focuses on ensuring that we're discussing issues relating to supplementation in hatcheries, which is an issue that there are certainly pros and cons associated with that from a science perspective. We are engaging that conversation with the recreational fishery, and we will continue to do so.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the Liberals will never change. Last week, we learned that they're selling access to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Innovation. They sold a ticket for a Liberal fundraiser to the president of a U.S. marijuana company. Then they refunded the money because it turns out that's illegal. But the Prime Minister said, no problem, I'll introduce you, president of the company, to the Minister of Innovation. So we want to know when the Minister of Innovation will be meeting with the president of this company. As my colleague knows, we have introduced new legislation concerning political donations. They're more transparent and more open. It's important that everyone follows those rules, and that's why we're here. And I'm very proud of this legislation. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government's been caught red-handed in another illegal cash for access scandal. American CEO Ian Jenkins attended a $1,600 a ticket Liberal fundraiser. Now, it's illegal for Americans to donate to Canadian politicians, but Jenkins boasted about being there. He got a picture with the Prime Minister, who said he'd open doors of access to the Minister of Innovation, actually, Mr. Speaker. Talk about a thank you for your donation. Yeah. Why does the Prime Minister continue to give preferred access to the wealthy and well-connected as long as they pony up to the Liberal Party of Canada?
Right. The Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Speaker, as my honourable colleague in the opposition knows, we introduced Bill C-50, which made it more transparent when coming to fundraising events here in Canada. It's precisely why events that are attended by the Prime Minister, ministers, or the leaders of the parties represented in this House are made publicly available, as well as those who attended, and that's very important for transparency purposes in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Perfect. Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals only paid back the illegal donation after they were caught, and now their story is that this American CEO was gifted the ticket from another Liberal donor who was also in attendance at the event. Of course, that would mean that that person gave $3,200 to the Liberal Party of Canada, something that is also illegal. But of course, to Liberals, it's only illegal if you get caught, and if you don't, it's thank you for your donation. Why does, when it comes to the Prime Minister's own behavior, does he find it so hard to follow ethical guidelines?
The Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, and I will remind my honourable colleague that even before this legislation came into effect in January of this year, the Liberal Party began disclosing their events and began disclosing the participants, something the Leader of the Opposition didn't do, Mr. Speaker, and we can only ask why. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Member for Hastings, Lennox, and Addington. Order.
Mr. Speaker, it's been a year since the Leader of the party opposite promised Canadians a climate plan. 365 days later, and the Conservatives still have no plan. Canadians can't afford politicians who ignore climate change.
Order. Order. I remind the member not to use personal names in your House. I'll ask him to finish his order. The honourable member. Order.
Do I start over? Canadians can't afford politicians who ignore climate change. They expect us to lead the fight against climate change, to protect Canadians and our communities. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment tell this House how our government is taking real action while the opposition continues?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to wish the Leader of the official opposition a happy anniversary. It was 1 year ago today that he committed to bring forward a plan that would actually meet the Paris Agreement targets. He can't bring himself to even talk about that plan or the Paris Agreement anymore. Mr. Speaker, while we move forward with the climate plan, the Conservatives are busy meeting behind closed doors with wealthy executives to discuss how they can take less action on climate change. It is reprehensible, Mr. Speaker. We are putting a price on pollution. We're taking plastics out of our ocean. We're investing in public transit and make life more affordable and more efficient for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, Canadians want action on climate change. I invite the Leader of the Opposition to take note.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government threw a trusted and respected Manitoba Chief Justice under the bus for callous political reasons. The Liberals leaked Justice Royale's confidential application to the Supreme Court, and now they're under investigation by the Privacy Commissioner. They trampled on his rights and slandered his good name. Also, they could trash the reputation of the former Justice Minister. Will the current Justice Minister confirm if he or his office have been contacted by the Privacy Commissioner regarding this leak?
Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, our government has taken significant steps to ensure that the process for appointing judges is transparent and accountable to Canadians and promotes a greater diversity on the bench. Mr. Speaker, our new process is effective. To date, we have appointed or elevated over 290 judges, Mr. Speaker, and the diversity of these judges and the diversity of the bench is becoming unprecedented. 55%. Mr. Speaker, of these judicial appointments are women. We'll continue to ensure that our process is merit-based, that it's secure, and that confidentiality and the opinions given in confidence are secure.
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our thoughts are with all those people who are affected by flooding in Quebec, Ontario, and New Brunswick. Unfortunately, we know that with climate change, these types of things will be ever more common, and flood mapping in many areas is out of date. A $200 million fund has been set up to help the provinces solve the problem. So far, Quebec hasn't been able to benefit from it. Will the federal government commit to working with the provinces to ensure that the program meets their needs and, most of all, to ensure that the money remains available for as long as necessary?
Public safety.
Disaster mitigation program has been in place for the last number of years, and a number of provinces and municipalities have taken advantage of the program. It's now in its final days. The government will have to make a decision in the future about whether the program will continue. But the honourable gentleman makes an important point that flood mapping is an extremely important priority. There is huge expertise within the Department of Natural Resources in the Government of Canada, and we will do our very best to collaborate with provinces and municipalities to make sure that service is appropriately available across the country.
Honourable Member for Sydney Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, our Trade Committee has been very active over the past few years with many trade agreements that our government has ratified. We understand the importance of these agreements, not only to our businesses, but for all Canadians. The CPTPP will help us access new markets to millions of consumers. This weekend, our Prime Minister welcomed the Japanese Prime Minister to Canada, where they reconfirmed the strength of our bilateral relationship. And it was a good one. Can the Minister of International Trade Diversification please update this House on the successes of this agreement and our trade strategy?
Order. The Honourable Minister of International Trade Diversification.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague from Sydney, Victoria, for his leadership and for all of his work on the Trade Committee. While it's still early, I am delighted to report that the results are nothing short of outstanding. Canada's exports of dutiable products to Japan have risen by 17.1% in January and February. And some Canadian beef exports have doubled compared to last year. Our trade diversification strategy is working. We are creating wealth. We are creating new markets and new jobs for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
A month ago, the Prime Minister threatened to sue the leader of the official opposition for telling Canadians the truth about his role in the SNC-Lavalin scandal. At the time, the leader of the opposition said he would see the Prime Minister in court. Well, the opposition leader is still waiting for the suit to be filed, waiting for a trial to start, and waiting for the Prime Minister to take the stand and testify under oath. Will the Prime Minister tell Canadians when he will follow through on his threats and testify under oath in the SNC-Lavalin scandal?
Government House Leader.
As the member knows very well, and I've answered on numerous occasions, is that the leader of the official opposition has actually been served notice on numerous occasions. And what he does is he changes his wording, he deletes tweets, and then he steps out with a new narrative and believes that that is all of a sudden his new truth. But, Mr. Speaker, what's important to note is that what Canadians have been waiting for 365 days is a climate plan from the Conservatives. So rather than worry about, actually advancing policy ideas, we will continue focusing on Canadians, making sure that we are delivering on a plan and commitments that they expect us to do, while the Conservatives continue playing silly politics. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, order. The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't need to tell members of this House that this country is in the midst of a climate emergency. We're seeing flooding throughout Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, killer windstorms in British Columbia in the winter, and forest fires in the summer. What we don't need is to weaken the already inadequate plan that we have from the federal government. So I'd like assurances that Canada will stand firm on our equivalency agreement for vehicles emission standards with the state of California, no matter what the White House does.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Honourable Member pointed out, climate change is real, and the consequences are too great to ignore. We know that transportation accounts for almost a quarter of Canada's emissions, and smart fuel efficiency rules for cars and light trucks is going to help reduce those emissions. When we first adopted our rules under the previous government in 2014, we actually made a commitment to review those in light of the review that was going on in the U.S. We're partway through that right now, and we're going to be carefully considering environmental and economic impacts as we make policy that's based here in Canada, not south of the border in Washington.
The Honourable Member for Brampton East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many young Canadians dream of owning a home, but that dream is becoming more difficult each and every single day. Many residents are concerned about the mortgage stress test rules and the impact that they're having on owning a home, and the continued slowdown of our real estate markets across this country. Can the Finance Minister please update this House on what measures he and this government are taking to make home ownership more affordable for all Canadians? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Finance.
We know how important it is for Canadians that they have the opportunity to meet up to their dream of buying a home. We can see that we need to try and make sure that we keep the market stable, which we've been working to do, but at the same time create opportunities for people to step forward and purchase a home. And that's why in this year's budget we actually had two important measures. One, for some Canadians, they will have the access to their RSP increased if they have such capacity. For other Canadians, we have a first-time home buyer's incentive, and that will allow people to be able to take a lower mortgage as they purchase their first home, giving access for many more Canadians the possibility of their first home.
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, terrible floods are afflicting Canadians across the country, including in my riding of Parry Sound, Muskoka. And while we appreciate the short-term efforts, there's also long-term solutions that have to be deployed. One of these is the 1 trillion tree movement around the globe to plant 1 trillion trees across the world, Mr. Speaker. This is a realistic plan to reduce emissions by 10 years' worth of emissions, to prevent flooding, and to increase biodiversity. Can the Government of Canada, instead of these endless debates about taxing people more, why don't we sign on to the 1 trillion tree movement and make a real difference for people?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, the irony of the question, given the recent decision by the Ontario Conservative government to axe the program that would see 50 million trees planted, is not lost on me. Our plan to fight climate is not just to put a price on pollution and put more money in the pockets of Canadians. It includes making record investments in public transit, making sure that 90% of our electricity is generated from clean resources by 2030, phasing out coal on the same schedule, making investments in green energy and green infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the urgency in the member's question. The time to act is now. If only the Conservatives would realize that, we'd all be better off.
Tabling of documents. Honorable député de Montcalm se lève avec l'appel au règlement. Alors.
The honourable member on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure I will get unanimous consent of the House to adopt the following motion that this House denounce the Government of Canada's decision to refuse the entry to Quebec of Mr. Carlos Puigdemont. The honourable member, does he have the unanimous consent of the House to move the motion? He does not have unanimous consent.
The Honourable President's Treasury Board is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I have the pleasure to table the report on the government responses to 7 petitions.